Hello. Today I'd just like to go through the process of printing your own labels, quilt labels or labels for anything really, onto some fabric. So what I'm using for that is some photo fabric, because it's a printable fabric, which has got a paper backing on it which peels off. This is the brand that I use mostly because this is the brand I can get, but it also works very well for me. And it comes already cut to a regular paper size, which is letter size, not the size that we use here. We use A4, but that's okay, it's very similar in size. What we need to know is the size, so that when we're setting out our labels and things, we can fill up the page. Because if you're going to print this and you need an inkjet printer to be able to print it, you want to fill up the whole page with labels. Now you might make lots of little labels, you might make one big label, there's any number of things you might want to do on there. You might want to do a combination, but to use the whole page is a good idea, because it's a little bit expensive to just waste, and you can't put it back through the printer again once you've printed on it. So I would just like to go through the process. I've got my computer set up here with some labels that I've already put together, because it's mostly about the printing I'm talking. So my labels, I've put 4 labels on a page here, and I've got it set to landscape on the side like that, and I've got text in them. So whatever program you're familiar with using, and I tend to use Publisher a lot because that's what I do with all my patterns and things, and you can just do it in whatever program you're familiar with on your computer. So I've got in here a nice bordered label over here. I've put some with some text in here, just a little text in the border there, and a little bit of artwork that I've scanned in this one down here. And so I'm just going to go to the printer and print that. And as I said, you need to have an inkjet printer, because this photo fabric is treated so that it'll accept the ink from an inkjet and keep it there. I'm just checking all my settings. I'm set to the right printer, it's letter size, and I'm going to print. So when I pop the paper in my printer, and because my printer's a little bit old, it doesn't always want to cooperate, so I just manually feed this one in, and then I'm going to click print on my computer, and very shortly it will come out here, and it doesn't take very long to print. But this is a great idea for doing your own labels, of course photos and things. I have shown you in a previous video how you might do photos in Quilting Tips and Techniques number 110. But today I just thought I'd just go through the whole idea of printing your own labels. So using the same printable fabric as we used for the photos to do labels, because you can do all sorts of text. I do all sorts of things. You might be a poet and you want to make a book on fabric, or I don't know, I'm sure you've got a good imagination in that area. So as you can see, it's coming out of the printer nicely now. My printer, I have to put the fabric side down because it's going to print on that side as it comes through. You'll know which side your printer prints on. You want it to print on the fabric side of your paper, not the paper side. So as you can see, that's all finished now. This is really going to be quite nice for some labels on the backs of my quilts. This one, you might be a grandma and you want to make some quilts for the little ones. I've even popped some care instructions on here. I might even read them to you. I've put on there, please love this quilt as I have loved making it for you. Each time you use it, imagine that I am there with you, giving you a hug. If you need to wash it because you have loved it so much, then just pop it in the washing machine and hang it out to dry, pulling it into shape as you hang it. And I've just said that the quilt is made with love for you by Grandma, but this is just a really bit of fun so that you can personalise them. Just giving you an idea, you could pop your photo on there if you wanted to. You could put a photo of a child or a cat, or there's really, your imagination is your limit on that. The next process that we'd go through when we printed that, because it's an inkjet, it is actually liquid ink, so it has to dry a little bit. It doesn't take very long. And then we have to peel the paper off and rinse that through some cold water, according to the instructions that came on the packet. So I'm just going to show you how to do that next bit. I've actually got here one that I've already printed that has now dried, and I'm just going to peel that off. So you just want to wiggle it at the corners till you can loosen the backing, and there it comes, and that will just peel off nice and easy. So this is a lovely soft cotton fabric that I'm using here, and you don't need the piece of paper anymore. Normally you would have this run under a running cold tap. I don't have a running cold tap at my sewing table, so I've got a little container of water here. So we've printed it, we've peeled the paper off, and now I'm just going to pop it through some cold water. This is obviously something to do with the setting, because the packet says I have to do it, so I'm going to do it. So as I said, normally they do recommend that you put it under running water, but I don't have that option right this minute. But I think this is going to work just as well. And I'm going to take that out of there whilst it's all nice and wet, and I'm just going to pat that dry. I've just got it sitting on a towel, so I'm just going to bring that towel up and absorb some of that liquid out of there. And you wouldn't perhaps normally let it just air dry, but today I'm just going to show you that you can actually iron it dry if you, like me, and you need it in a hurry. I'm just going to move this out of the way so that I don't spill it on me. But I just thought the idea of printing your own labels is such a great idea. That's now still wet, so I'm just going to iron that to get it nice and dry. And then I can cut them up into labels. So when you're setting your labels out, make sure you've left enough margin around them so that you can cut them apart. You may want to hand sew this on to the back of a quilt, or you might want to use some fusible web and fuse it on. So you could make your own little appliques. You can do, really, the printing onto fabric is just an unlimited thing that opens up so much. You can really personalize things. You can put, if you're making a quilt for someone, you could put their name on it, your own name. It really is just pretty much unlimited what you can do. So you can see that that's come out really nicely. I can just show you with the one that I haven't yet washed. They pretty much look the same to me. So it hasn't, nothing's changed as I've rinsed it and ironed it. And I'll just cut those apart just to show you that it's that easy. And I've just made 4 labels. I now have to make 4 quilts, I guess. But you might be making even like a little book or something, and you want to sign it, or labels for clothing. It doesn't have to be for quilts, of course. The only thing is, sometimes with frequent washing you may find that the ink might fade a little bit, so that might be just something to be aware of. So having got my label to this stage, if I was going to write on that, I can just use a permanent marking pen that you can get, that's great for that sort of thing. And then I'm just going to perhaps iron those little edges over, just turn them over to the back so that it's all ready for me to hand stitch in place. And it's as easy as that to make your own labels, nothing terribly complicated. A little bit of imagination, perhaps just setting up to print them, but just on your computer and whatever software it is that you're using. I'm sure you can think of something, just do a couple of different fonts. It doesn't have to be anything terribly amazing. It's certainly always appreciated on the back of quilts and other items, perhaps in your bags and things, that you've popped your name and things on it. But you could do your name as you're printing it and things. You wouldn't have to write on it if you didn't want to. That's the beauty of doing your own personalised labels. So I just thought I'd go through that process for you, just to give you another idea of how you can do your own labelling, because it just makes it so much more personal. Thank you.